Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, everything I'm going to be reading for GarbAugust. So GarbAugust, if you don't know, is the annual reading event I run where we celebrate the joy of trashy books. And by trashy books, we mean books that are maybe a bit exploitative of current trends, of things that are popular at the time. But mostly we mean books that are fun to read, but may not be particularly edifying. Books that some people might turn their noses up a bit at, but which you will have a lot of fun with. So that's the idea of GarbAugust, is just to fall in love with reading enjoyable, fun, silly books again. As you can see from my t-shirt, the theme of GarbAugust this year is Don't Panic, Read Trash. Given that I am just returning to BookTube after a couple of weeks off where I was suffering from anxiety, the irony of this slogan is not lost on me. But I'm certainly looking forward to diving into a lot of trashy fun books in August and just having a good time, just enjoying myself, and hopefully all of you will too. This t-shirt, which is the official t-shirt of GarbAugust, is available to buy. I will leave a link to the t-shirt in the description for the video. It's on a site called Bonfire. It was designed by MJ from the channel Reading This Life, and all the proceeds from this t-shirt go to PEN America, which is a literacy charity that challenges kind of book banning and things like that, as well as encouraging literacy generally. It is available in other colours than this green, but I thought this was a very GarbAugust appropriate colour. My wife has told me that I'm not allowed to wear it outside the outside the house though. So I've got a big stack of books to go through with you today. As you will know if you've seen my my announcement video for GarbAugust, there are there's weekly prompts, so 4 weekly prompts, and there's a bingo card as well with 25 prompts. I will leave all of those in the description to the video, along with all of the co-hosts. There are loads of co-hosts for GarbAugust this year, as there are every year. All of their channels are fantastic and you should check them out. So do look in the description to the video for that. The other thing I will put in the description to the video, before I forget to mention it, is a link to where you can pre-order Trash Tales. So this is the anthology of trashy fiction that's edited by Alex from the channel Alex Unabridged. So this is available to pre-order for Kindle or Kobo now, and you'll be able to order physical copies of it from the 1st of August. So this has a load of really fun stories in it, which are just, we cover all the different elements of trashy fiction, all the different styles of trashy fiction are in here. There's like a cozy mystery, there's animal attacks type stories, there's a couple of spicy stories, loads of fun stuff in here. All the proceeds from this go to Dolly Parton's Imagination. What's it called? I've forgotten the name of it now. Imagination Library, I think, which is a charity run by Dolly Parton that supports children's literacy. So a great charity to be supporting. So all proceeds from this will go towards that charity. So yeah, check the description to the video for links to that. Right, so let me go through everything I've got to read then. Before I start the GarbAugust list, there are 2 other things I need to read this month, which I think you could kind of count both of them as trashy, but they're not really GarbAugust picks. So the first of those then is for the Criminolly Book Club, which I run for my patrons and channel members. This month we are reading No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. Now, how is a Cormac McCarthy book trashy, you may ask, given that he's a very well respected giant of American literature. Well, the reason is because this is kind of a novelisation, and novelisations are something, we consider to be trashy books, so books that are based on movies. So Cormac McCarthy originally wrote No Country for Old Men as a screenplay. He couldn't get anyone to make that screenplay, so he turned it into a novel. So it's a novelisation of an unfilmed screenplay. Clearly, after the book came out, it was then turned into a movie, ironically enough, by the Coen brothers. But yeah, it kind of counts as trashy for that. So I'm looking forward to that. I have had kind of mixed results with Cormac McCarthy in the past. Some of his books I've really, really liked. I really liked The Road. I really liked Blood Meridian. Some of his books I haven't liked so much. So we'll see how I get on with this. I did enjoy the movie, I have to say. And then the other thing is for my Buddy Reading with My Dad project, we are reading a techno thriller called Choosers of the Slain by an author called James H. Cobb. So this is about, I think, I don't think it's about submarines. I think it's about like a kind of super naval boat. And I think it's about a conflict with China. I might be wrong on that. But I'm looking forward to this anyway. I used to really enjoy techno thrillers, and this is one that I haven't read. And I think this you could kind of consider to be trashy because it was published, I think, in either the late 80s or early 90s, kind of on the wave of techno thrillers that cashed in on the success of Tom Clancy's works. But yeah, my dad considers this to be one of his 12 favourite books. So yeah, really looking forward to reading that. Right, let's get into GarbAugust then. So I realised watching this back when I was editing it that I hadn't said the most important thing, which is GarbAugust is open to everybody. All you have to do to take part is read one trashy book. Just try one out and see how it feels. I can pretty much guarantee that you'll have a good time. Now, in this video, I talk about loads of different books I'm going to read for it. I talk about the weekly prompts, I talk about the bingo card, all those different things. But don't let that overwhelm you. To be part of GarbAugust, all you have to do is read one trashy book. What you might find in this video, though, is suggestions for the kind of things you might want to try. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So I do have one gap for GarbAugust, and that is one of the bingo card squares is YA trash. So young adult trash. I haven't got anything for that yet. I am going to be checking out local charity shops and hopefully picking something up. I've got more than enough in my TBR as it is. I've got about 6,500 pages worth of books here. I do have a bit of time off work on holiday during August, so hopefully that will help. But whether I actually get through this stack or not, I don't know. And I would say as well, I do have a few books in here which cover more than one prompt, but I've also got some books which I could use to cover more than one prompt and haven't. So I have got a little bit of flexibility, which hopefully will mean I can cover all of the prompts, even if I have to, kind of double dip on a few books. Right, so let's go through it then. So the weeks then, I'll pick up the first few books from my stack. So the weeks then, the first week is Anything Goes. So I'm not got a particular book picked out for that, but something I read will count for that. So that first week, which I think is the 1st to the 10th of August, you can read whatever you want. The second week then, which is the 11th to the 17th, I might be getting these dates slightly wrong, I forgot to check them. But yeah, the second week is shock value, sorry. So a book that sells itself based on kind of violent or sexual content. So for that, I have Kill Test by Graham King, which was very kindly sent to me by Pommum, one of my viewers recently. So this sells itself as being a novel of future carnage, more savage than Rollerball and more prophetic than A Clockwork Orange. So it's about kind of gladiatorial combat that is filmed and like sold as entertainment to people. So that looks very entertaining indeed. Week 3 then is Cozy Trash. And for that one, I have a book that was also sent to me by a viewer. So this one was sent to me by Jessie. And this is Live and Let Growl by Laurie and Berenson. Look at how cute and cosy that cover is. What a gorgeous dog. There were 2 books by Laurie and Berenson that Jessie sent me. This one had the cuter dog on the cover, so I've chosen this one. And it's also got a better/worse pun. It's like, that it's punning on Live and Let Die, but Growl doesn't sound anything like Die, so it kind of doesn't work. But this is a canine mystery. Anyway, so looking forward to reading that. I think so it's set in the world of competitive dog shows, but features a mystery as well, so that should be fun. And then week 4 is Apocalyptic Trash. So for that, I have Wasteworld Book 1, Aftermath by James Barton. So James Barton is a pseudonym for a British author called Lawrence James, who wrote tons of different books. So he wrote westerns, he wrote the Witches series of kind of sexy horror books, which I've talked about on the channel before. So a very, very prolific writer. This was very kindly sent to me by a viewer quite a few months ago now, and I'm afraid I've forgotten the person's name. So if it was you, thank you very much indeed. Really looking forward to this. They also sent me the other 3 books in the series, so if I enjoy this, I will probably go on and read those as well. So that's week 4, Apocalyptic Trash. We've also got 2 group reads. The reason we've got 2 group reads is that the book I chose for the group read, pretty much everyone else amongst the co-hosts was like, that's too long, I'm not going to read that. But I was adamant that we had this book because I enjoyed so much one of the other books by this author in a previous GarbAugust. So the book is Rivals by Jilly Cooper, which is the second book in her Rutshire Chronicles sequence. The first book is Riders, but you don't have to have read Riders to enjoy Rivals. It works as a standalone. So I am really looking forward to reading this. We are, as I say, doing a review for it. There's a channel on my Discord server where you can, where we can chat about it. But it is over 700 pages long, so we'll see how I get on with it. But the first book, Riders, was an absolute hoot. You can, remember, fulfil prompts for GarbAugust using like film and TV as well, and there is a TV series of Rivals which came out recently, which over here in the UK is on Disney Plus. I'm not sure what services it's available on elsewhere, but that's supposed to be really fun as well. So yeah, a book, a kind of sexy book set in the world of show jumping. So yeah, very much looking forward to reading this. And this also works for the Bonkbuster square on the bingo card. A few people have asked me what a Bonkbuster is. So it's kind of a British term, but it's this kind of big novel about rich, glamorous people having sex with each other and stabbing each other in the back, basically, is how I would define a Bonkbuster. So think of authors like Jilly Cooper, like Judith Krantz, like Shirley Conran, so Lace by Shirley Conran definitely counts as a Bonkbuster, or Jackie Collins is probably the queen of the Bonkbuster, so the kind of book that tended to get turned into a miniseries in the 80s. So yes, Rivals by Jilly Cooper is the first of our group reads. The second one, which is a lot shorter, is Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. So this is about all the animals in the world go mad and start attacking people. So definitely sounds very trashy. I think James Patterson, and the way he just milks his reputation for everything that it's worth, is a great example of a trashy author, a modern trashy author. It feels like, and I don't want to do him a disservice, but it feels like all he cares about is making as much money as he can. And to be fair to him, he does do a lot for kind of literacy charities and things like that. So he does do a lot with his success to help people. But boy, when I went to the library, I got this out of the library. When I went to the library, they literally have a whole set of shelves which is just James Patterson books. He's clearly very, very popular. I have read a few of his books in the past and enjoyed some of them more than others. Some of his books I've absolutely hated. But some of his, like the early Alex Cross books, I did enjoy. So we'll see what Zoo is like. Again, there'll be a channel. There is a channel on my Discord server for us to discuss it. It's quite thick, but the pages are very widely spaced and have big margins. So I think it will be a very quick read. So let's move on to the rest of the bingo card then. So Zoo clearly would count for the killer animal square on the bingo card. Oh, I forgot to say, Live and Let Growl I'm using for the non-killer animal square on the bingo card. But I do have other books picked out that cover killer animals as well. I'm going to try and do all of my bingo card picks without referring to my laptop. We'll see how I do. I may have to pick it up at some point and just double check things. So first up then is Celebrity Memoirs. So for that, I'm cheating a little bit with this one because it's kind of, when I said Celebrity Memoirs for that bingo square, I was thinking of, like famous people who are just cashing in on their fame, like soap stars or reality TV stars. I've gone for something slightly different, but it feels appropriate for GarbAugust. So it's Car Sick by John Waters, which is his book about hitchhiking across America. John Waters, clearly the Pope of trashy cinema, I think is what he's often referred to as. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've read a few of his books in the past and always found them very entertaining. And the colour of this book on the back almost matches the very bright and vibrant colour of this T-shirt, doesn't it? So yeah, Car Sick by John Waters is my celebrity memoir. That would work for non-fiction trash, but for non-fiction trash, I've got a book I bought for GarbAugust a few years ago and never got around to reading, but really looking forward to it. It's Coffee, Tea or Me, the uninhibited memoirs of two airline stewardesses by Trudy Baker and Rachel Jones. I'm also using this one to cover off the topical trash square. So the idea of topical trash is a lot of trashy fiction or trashy books are written in to cash in on things that are happening in the world at the time. And this book came out, I think, in either the 60s or 70s. Let me check when it actually came out. 1967. So at a time when air travel was becoming, a really big thing. So people were travelling by air in a way they never had before. And there was this real kind of glamour and mystique around airline stewardesses at the time. This book definitely, cashes in on that. that kind of slight desire that maybe some male passengers had for airline stewardesses. So yes, I think it's supposed to be very trashy and very entertaining. So yeah, looking forward to reading that one. Next up then, we have... this is one where I'm going to have to check my laptop, so apologies. I think this was not a book. So yeah, the idea of the not a book square is that it is something that is not a traditional book. So for that, I have this book, Ghost Train by Gail Richards. Well, not book. So this is a kind of halfway between a book and a magazine. So this is published in the UK by a magazine called The People's Friend, and they have this subscription service where you can get, I think, either one or two of these pocket novels a month. So they are very cheaply printed. They have adverts for The People's Friend on the back. They don't have any sort of proper blurb on them or anything. They just have a little description on the front. So this one, the description is, can Madison and Ryan uncover the truth behind an untimely death? So they are typically either kind of cosy mystery type things or romances, like a lot of historical romances, that kind of thing. So not really a book, but still a novel. So I'm really looking forward to reading these. I have a few more of them, which I may dip into as well. And I've got a couple of other things I'll show you that fulfill that not a book prompt. I'll show you those at the end. So yeah, looking forward to trying Ghost Train. Right, let's grab a few more. So next up then we have Killer Animals. Actually, no, we don't. So next up we have local trash. So trash that is local to you. So for that one, I've got Lair by James Herbert, which would work for Killer Animals as well, clearly. So this is the sequel to his novel The Rats, about killer rats. I have read this before, but not for decades. So I'm really looking forward to rereading this. And James Herbert lived in Sussex, which is the county I live in the UK, and parts of this book, I believe, are set in Sussex as well. So that works for me for local trash. And I'm also using this for the green on the cover square that we use to remember Pax from the channel, Pax Panic, who was a host with us in the first GarbAugust and sadly is no longer with us. So yes, Pax's signature colour on her channel was green. So green on the cover, you can read to remember Pax. Next up then, we have Killer Animals. So for that, I'm reading Killer by Peter Tonkin, which is one of the paperbacks from Hell books that was republished, fairly recently. So originally came out in the 70s. So this is a killer whale book. It's supposed to be really, really fun, cashing in on the success of Jaws. So yeah, really looking forward to reading that. Next up then, we have a sequel no one asked for. So I do have another book potentially for that, but I'm going to read this one, which is The Second War of the Worlds by George H. Smith. So I heard about this on a Reddit thread the other day where someone had posted about it. Apparently it just throws loads of different concepts together and tries to mash them into a sequel to War of the Worlds. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what this is like. And it also works for the vintage trash square, as many of the books I'm reading are. Oh, look at that, a fantastic illustration at the start there. So yes, looking forward to reading The Second War of the World. Okay, next we have Middlegrade Trash. So for that I have Babysitter's Mystery 2, Beware Dawn, which is by Anne M. Martin. So I don't know anything about this series, but it looks fun. I couldn't figure out, I was wondering if the central character is called Dawn or if it's like Beware the Dawn. I'm assuming that the character is called Dawn, and yes, the back blurb confirms that. But I like the idea that maybe, given it's about babysitters, it could also be about the fact that Dawn is in some way threatening. I don't think that's the case though. But anyway, looks fun. Next up then, so the next square is the YA trash one, which I don't have anything for. So if you've got any suggestions for that, let me know in the comments. I'm fairly sure I've got some YA trash on my, like digitally on my e-reader. So maybe I'll have a look through that. Maybe I could read some manga for that actually. That might work. Okay, next up then we have Category Romance. So for that, I have a book which looks very dodgy indeed. I think it's a plantation novel. It certainly sounds to be from the back. So this is Cotton Moon by Catherine Tracy. I think this may be set in South Africa. Certainly, if I read you the start of the blurb on the back, Jan van Oord was a blonde brute of a man who'd stop at nothing to get what he wanted. So yes, I think this is set in South Africa. I think it's probably racially problematic. We shall see. But yeah, I'm interested to read it anyway. Yes, so yes, we shall see. But that works for the category romance square. Category romance, if you don't know, is like romance books that are like mass produced, that often fit into certain subgenres. And certainly, you know, books in the 60s and 70s, appallingly, you know, books that were set around plantations and had slavery as a theme were, for some reason, quite popular. Next up then, we have Men's Adventure. So I'm going to be continuing with my read through of the Executioner books by Don Pendleton, which I've been doing since I started the channel. So I'm up to number 26, which is Acapulco Rampage. So the Executioner, Mac Bolan, the Executioner, is a guy waging a war against the mafia. And in later books in the series, there are hundreds of books in the series. In later books, he becomes more of a kind of spy, anti-terrorist type character. But in the initial books, he's going up against the mafia in various locations. In this one, clearly, he is in Acapulco. The book promises sex, drugs and death on the beaches of Acapulco. So looking forward to that. Next up then, we have a novel by a celebrity. So one of the other bingo card squares, which I have a different book put out for, is a book you wouldn't read on the bus. So this, depending on how things go with the Epstein list and the current scandal around that, this may end up being a book I wouldn't read on the bus. It's by Bill Clinton and James Patterson, and it is The President is Missing. So a book co-authored by the two. I knew my library had a copy of this, and weirdly it wasn't in the James Patterson section. It was filed under C for Clinton. So yes, the ex-president has written a book with James Patterson. And in fact, they've got a new book out. They've just released a new book, which I think is the third book they've written together. So yeah, interesting to see what this is like. Lee Child says it's the political thriller of the decade. I suspect that may not be true, but I'm interested to read it anyway. Okay, what's next? Let me grab my laptop again. So next we have author smoking or drinking. So I am slightly cheating with this. So the idea of this prompt is that the book has an author photo of the author, either smoking or drinking. This book doesn't have an author photo on, but the author in his author photos was usually smoking or drinking. That author is Guy Smith, and the book is Blood Circuit, which is about racing cars and horror. I don't really know what it's about. But yes, it's a book that involves horror and racing cars and has a scary horse on the cover. So yes, looking forward to that. So next up, we have another square for a host from the original GarbAugust who is no longer with us. That is Alice from the channel Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. So Alice was a big cat lover. Her cat often featured in her videos, and also a big fan of mystery novels. So we are reading, or suggesting people read, a cosy cat mystery to remember Alice. So the one I'm going to be reading is The Cat Who Went Underground by Lillian Jackson Braun, who I think is kind of the queen of cosy cat mysteries. So this is one of a long-running series. I have read a couple of these in the past and enjoyed them, so looking forward to that. Next then we have a paperback from hell. So Killer by Peter Tonkin would work for that. I think Lair by James Herbert would also work for that, but I'm going to be reading Stage Fright by Garrett Boatman, which is a horror novel about a heavy metal band, so looking forward to that. Next we have a novelisation or tie-in. I do have, I think I've got a couple of other things. I've certainly got other books I could read for this, but the one I'm going to be reading is Robocop II by Ed Naha. So the original Robocop, I have to say, is one of my favourite films of all time. I think it's a phenomenally good film. Robocop II, not nearly as good, but I am quite looking forward to reading the novelisation. I think I probably read this before, back in the 90s, but yeah, looking forward to giving that a try again. Next we have my actual pick for You Wouldn't Read It on the Bus. So yeah, the Bill Clinton book hopefully won't end up being one that you wouldn't want to read on the bus. We shall see. But the one I'm going to be reading is Nick Carter, The Judas Spy, which has a very dodgy cover, as you can see there. If I do read it on the bus, I'll have to read it like that. So yes, Nick Carter. There are hundreds of books in the Nick Carter series. They never have the authors' names on the cover. This one was actually written by somebody called William L. Rode. But yes, I don't know what this one's about, but yeah, it definitely has a dodgy cover. But they are fun books, the ones I've read. They are kind of slightly sexy spy novels, as you might guess from that cover. Next up then, we have Pseudonym. So actually this is the last one. So many of the books I've shown you were published under pseudonyms. There are certainly other ones I could have picked for this, but there's another Nick Carter book that I particularly wanted to read for this because the author is someone quite noteworthy. So this is Inca Death Squad, one of the fairly early Nick Carter books, which was actually written by Martin Cruz Smith, who went on to become very famous for writing the book Gorky Park and its sequel. So a very well-respected thriller writer. I read Gorky Park recently and thought it was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, interested to see what Martin Cruz Smith does with Nick Carter. So that is all the stuff that I've got kind of officially on my TBR for GarbAugust. The other square actually I haven't covered yet is host recommendations. So I will be watching my my co-host videos to see what books they have in their TBRs and may pick out one of those for my host recommendation square. But let me show you some of the other things I've got which I may read if I have time this month. So as I said, I've got three other books in that Aftermath series by James Barton. So we've got sorry, not Aftermath, Wasteworld. So we've got Wasteworld 2, Resurrection, Wasteworld 3, Angels, and Wasteworld 4, My Way. So I think that is the complete series. So hopefully I'll manage to get to those. For Not a Book, I've also got this romance comic collection that I bought recently. Return to Romance, The Strange Love Stories of Ogden Whitney. So these are kind of 50s and 60s comic strips, which look very interesting. I've also got, as another novel by a celebrity, other than the Bill Clinton one, I've got another James Patterson one. Appropriately enough, given the charity we are supporting with Trash Tales, it's by Dolly Parton. So this is Run Lola Run by Dolly Parton and James Patterson. Hello, it's Editing Ollie again. Now the eagle-eyed, or rather eagle-eared amongst you will realise that I said the wrong name for the book. The Dolly Parton book is called Run Rose Run. Run Lola Run was a German real-time thriller from I think the 1990s or early 2000s, featuring a woman with red hair running about. So I would like to give that a try. Maybe I'll do a compare between the Bill Clinton one and the Dolly Parton one. I've got another category romance. So I've got Run for the Roses by Eileen Bryan from the Candlelight Ecstasy Supreme series. So one that promises to be a little bit spicier. I've got another sequel no one else for, so John Rosso's Return of the Living Dead, which was, so this copy very kindly sent to me by one of my viewers, Heidi, recently. So I definitely used to own a copy of this. I can't remember if I ever read it or not, but the story of this was John Russo was one of the people who worked on the Night of the Living Dead movie and cashed in on its success by writing, in the 70s I think, didn't come out, yeah, 1978, by writing this sequel novel, which has recently been republished. There was then clearly a movie, Return of the Living Dead, which has a different plot to this novel. But yeah, looking forward to rereading this, if indeed I have read it before. This new cover is absolutely fantastic, I have to say. I really love that cover. I've also got The Missing and the Damned by Jonathan Steele, which was sent to me by a viewer, Franz, recently. This sounds absolutely fantastic. It's about a £30 million robbery from the Vatican, where the money, by the sound of it, is hidden in an old abbey. So that looks very fun and very trashy. I've got a gothic romance, Fog Hides the Fury by Paula Minton, which looks entertaining and is a lovely old vintage edition as well. And then finally, another book Heidi sent me, which could work for Bonkbuster, I think, is The Lonely Lady by Harold Robbins. So if I have time, I may try a bit of Harold Robbins as well. And then finally, I said that was the final thing. The other thing I've got for Not a Book is these wonderful old magazines that were sent to me recently by Dave Brzezinski, the publisher of Occult Detective magazine. So Kay Harvey's Quest, The Frightened Guest. So these are little kind of romantic mystery novels, I think. Dangerous. Mark of the Swastika, and Depth Charge, which is a war story. So these all look fantastic. So I may try one of those as well. So I've managed to get to the end of that video. Well done if you've stuck with me this long. Do let me know what you intend to read for GarbAugust. Hopefully you're taking part. As I say, if you want any suggestions for things to read, either check out that challenge on the story graph or jump onto my Discord server and we can, there's loads of people there chatting about what they're going to be reading for GarbAugust. So yes, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you're joining in with GarbAugust. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.